great to hear. I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
it was
so
like for us making it.
I'm sure, man, and I know for those who don't know right now, I'm sitting with Mr. Carl of His Hero Is Gone, former bass player, uh, artist, still an artist, still working in art. Um, Thanks for coming on the podcast, Carl. I really appreciate it.
Totally. You're welcome. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, and so there's a is a great deal to unpack, as they say, and like I said, this started out as a metal podcast. It's still, for the most part, an extreme metal podcast. But one of my good friends who is in a local band here in Lafayette, Louisiana, turned me on to all things His Hero Is Gone, um, tragedy that Todd is heavily involved with, or was involved with, and Nightfell as well. And he knew that those bands would hit a nerve with me, and and I remember I mentioned to Sean, said, "Dude, I would love to talk to them." He was like, "Well, good luck, because there's not," and he was right. There's not a whole lot of like interviews and articles with you guys, and and I respect that. So I was really elated to see you tell me that you would be down for an interview. So thanks again.
You're welcome. Yeah, yeah, we're not. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Happy to be here. I don't. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird being interviewed without the band. With outside of the band. You know,
Yeah, and
but it's like you know, yeah, I'll do my best. But yeah,
no problem. I mean, I
apologies in
mean,
advance if this is
and
boring.
since since you're here, and since I got you in front of me, what I basically like to do is just basically, you know, um, just start with your story, and we'll just take it from there. Like, as what was your upbringing life, and you basically, you could disclose or not disclose whatever you feel. Um, I'm just really curious to know, like, what shaped the man, behind the music, really.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, I have to, I have to go back pretty far. I don't know. I don't. That's a tough question. I mean,
Oh,
I'd have to
we got
name.
time.
I'd have to. I'd have to. Cite some mainstream stuff because that's all there was. As a kid, there was radio, and there was. You had to be able to afford a cassette or an LP. I grew up, pretty low income, working class, kind of normal, you know, public school, that kind of thing. A combination of urban and rural. My experience mostly is urban, but so I got an experience of both. Um, you know, I'd say it was a really kind of solitary kid that really gravitated towards art and music at an early age. By that I mean, you know, um, comic books. Uh, man, for music, I'd say maybe it's hearing ACDC randomly on the radio, and it just kind of stood out. I was like, "What is that?" And then, I had to, you had to look pretty hard to find music back then, especially as a little kid with no I didn't have a stereo. I didn't have or money, So basically, it's like whatever you could find on the radio. You might hear like something like Scorpions Blackout stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
This is all like I hate it's kind of embarrassing to say, but that's the gateway into music. Period was that. Once I could afford a tape or an album, I bought Black Sabbath's greatest hits. I don't know why. I just saw it. It just really like was like, I got to hear this band, like Black Sabbath. This was, they were already like, broken up. This was like much after the fact, but I think it's just this cassette. Personally, I was coming out of like, I don't know, I had a lot of troubles as a kid. Just, yeah, I don't even know how to, as a kid, you can't really define what these are. It's just, man, I mean, this music, this Black Sabbath tape, this greatest hits. It really brought me out of like something I was in. It took me
Yeah.
to another side that it showed me. Hmm, I don't know. It just showed me how to live. It gave me. It
I
gave me.
totally
It gave me.
understand.
It gave me. Yeah, like I'm sure we all probably have those moments as kids. You can't. You don't know what it is that's making everything so fucked up, and we don't know why, but things speak to us like that. But like, yeah, we all just like felt like you and like everybody in our communities were drawn to this not because we have well-adjusted upbringings or pleasant experiences, in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the hard stuff that brings us in. And then, as a kid, hard stuff is extra hard because
Yeah.
you're alone, man. Like you're alone no matter what. But like, yeah, you're really alone then. You know. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that, the power of it just drew me in, like the music and the fact that, and particularly like it was so cool to hear, bass with, this was not like something you could hear on the radio, of course, and you really heard the bass coming through. To me, that that was something. Jump forward a little bit. I got the early Maiden stuff, like Killers, the first two albums with Diano, Clyde Burr. Those two albums were they had this harshness to them. I had heard like Number of the Beast like on the radio or something, and then I was like, oh, that's great, but it was, even then I could understand that it was kind of polished, like
Oh,
just like
right, right.
any radio, anything on the radio. This had this, these harsher tones. I hadn't heard punk because it just wasn't available. It wasn't accessible to me. Barely even knew it existed. And so Maiden, I think those first two albums, those really, really spoke to me, and there was this, there's this attack and this harshness that I wasn't finding in commercial metal on the radio, or any other thing. It was just, it was something else. It was like, yeah, really raw and, um, borderlining on brutal, but not, going in the red, kind of like the tones, the harshness and everything. And then, but again, it was, the bass really coming through. It was like, I was really just drawn into that, you know, to that element of this music. The bass was like the lead, you know, really driving the music to me,
Yeah.
and I liked, the screaming vocals, the harsher the better. And like, I couldn't find anything else. There was nothing else like it at the time that I knew of. I mean, I knew of the new wave of British heavy metal, and I looked around trying to find stuff, but there was nothing else in that genre that really grabbed me. So, fast forward just a year or so, and here's this band called Metallica. I'm hearing, I'd stay up late at night to hear this show called Metal Shop. It was on some commercial radio station,
Yeah.
and they, there was this song, Ride the Lightning, you know, and I was like, wow, what is that? And I was like, I got to get my tape recorder and record it. It was like, really this ghetto-y, crappy, tape recorder that I'm holding
Oh,
up
I
to the
I did the
radio.
same thing growing up.
Oh, awesome. Rad, rad, rad. So yeah, that was and I, sat with this for a while before still couldn't really afford, music. So I made it a mission to buy that album. And then Master of the Puppets came out. Lo and behold, they're playing live soon. I was like 15 or something. It was like one of my first shows, second show, I think. um, First one was Iron Maiden, Power Slave. Second was Metallica,
Wow.
opening for Ozzy. And man, I was so stoked. I'd been, hand painting, you know, I'd been hand painting, I haven't had art classes yet, so I'd gotten tools for paints, and I'd painted some old dilapidated army jacket, cut the sleeves off, painted the Metallica logo in red, and Iron Maiden Killers, just the form with the axe.
Yeah,
And it
yeah.
took me like 8 months to paint that because I didn't have any training. It was like that combination. I was like, I'm going to wear this, and you know, so I mean, that's what I'm remembering now. This is all, but more importantly, the front seats were empty.
Wow.
It was this Coliseum show, and it was like no one was there to see Metallica. It was like the first 10 rows were like empty, and I couldn't afford a ticket like that, but I was just like ran up and grabbed one. I just jumped in the front seat, right, and I just happened to land like in front of Cliff Burton as they were beginning. You know, like I think it was Battery, and it was just life altering. It was just like everything was just on from there.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was just the one of the greatest. It was probably the greatest thing I'd ever experienced in my life. You know,
Damn.
it really was. Like I did felt it wasn't just like, oh, this music is cool. It was something else. It was like I defined it earlier in another interview. I called it like it felt like a DNA exchange or something. Like
Wow.
whatever, like we were, man, whatever these guys were on, like or into, or whatever they were, trajectory, whatever they were, that territory they were in it, and I was in it, and we were all in it, and this was it. This was like the answer. This was like the thing I'd been missing, like forever. You know,
Mhm.
and I got right away that they you know had hardcore and punk influences. I just and that's the element that I didn't hear in any metal before that. It was like they were so apart. Um, they were so apart you would know, even when I went to punk from thrash, they were still very divided. It was very weird the idea of combining the two or even liking the two was weird.
Right.
Like you know, um, and I still got that those sort of classic influences coming through, like early Schenker, Scorpions, like early like in
Yeah.
trance era, like which is heavy as fuck to me still to this day.
It
Like
really is.
it
It's such
is.
a heavy fucking album. It's funny you mentioned Entranced because I was just jamming that shit, like, last weekend
Awesome.
on an airplane on the way, to St. Petersburg, Florida, and I was, like, just jamming, The Evening Wind. I was jamming that.
Yeah, it's heavy. I
Yeah.
love it, man. It's got everything. I mean, even the bass tone is punching through. It's really strong and heavy, and definitely, yeah, that song. Like, I definitely listened to that song on repeat. I think last summer, like a few times, even like watching my son play soccer. Like, yeah, it just still grabs me. Just like
Yeah.
they really capture melancholy and depression and channel that. And it's not commercial music by any means. It's um, yeah,
Yeah, and then
amazing.
Scorpions would go on to, like, being one of the most, like, highly commercialized, uh, bands, I
Yeah.
mean, ever, like,
Hmm.
all their
Yeah.
like, "Rocky Like a Hurricane" is, like, in every commercial these days for God knows what.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Uh,
But,
but yeah, back to
I wanna go
Metallica.
back,
I
man.
could tell that it was coming through. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Good.
Oh, no, no, no,
Yeah.
you go ahead, finish your point. I just, I was about to say, you know, you seeing Cliff Burton at a young age, and like you said, you had like this DNA exchange, this experience is like truly, spiritual for you. Were you playing bass at the time? Okay.
No, I was a guitar player. Yeah, I was started out playing guitar. I had that background. I had just a
Okay.
cheap, like, I don't know, Kmart Les Paul, real crappy Fender Champ practice amp, no pedals. I didn't know how to make a good sound. I could barely even play. No training. You know,
Mhm.
just trying to play Black Sabbath songs and trying to learn, pentatonic scale and things. Um, but yeah, it was. I would definitely call that spiritual. It was without a doubt, man, without a doubt. And I think it carries on. Like yeah, there's no way other way to describe it. Um, but yeah, I mean that sort of classic classic metal combination or classic I don't know early metal combination, with hardcore. Like shortly after Metallica, I quickly went, quickly looked for hardcore music because there was a lot of stuff called crossover at the time,
Mhm.
which none of that really, I don't know. I didn't really vibe with any of that stuff. I mean, I liked the very first COC. Um, I mean, animosity was good, but like that kind of stuff, I knew I was definitely aware of it because it was well, publicized in like Thrasher magazine and like you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, in my search, like the stuff that was being like really sold to you as crossover, just like yeah, this it just seemed kind of weak, you know. So it was
Mhm.
like there wasn't really a bridge. It was like at the time to me it was like I mean weirdly either or. Like I tried to find something heavier than Metallica, which of course yeah. I mean I found Slayer, I found yeah like Rain and Blood, I Haunting the Chapel, like early stuff, which is freaking awesome. Um, and that set for a little while, but it still just wasn't heavy enough. And I found punk to be heavier, feel heavier. It just gave more of like I don't know, man. Like hearing like Black Flag's My War, like
Yeah.
it was just a different level. It was a different level of heaviness that wasn't intricacy. Well, there's intricacy there. It's tight. It's like super tight, um, but really sparse. And so the really plotting like like, oh, you probably don't have to be a great virtuoso bass player to play those parts, but it's so heavy,
Yeah, yeah.
and just the way it's delivered and whatever's behind it is just like, really substantial, like it's the substantiative new world that I just didn't know about. And I was like, whoa, what is that? Like, and from there, went to like a lot of UK stuff, like um, the stuff that influenced speed metal and thrash, like Discharge,
Mhm.
um, a lot of East Bay stuff, um, stuff current at the time. There was, you know, it was just getting started. I'd say like what was getting started in the East Bay, like Neurosis. Um, a lot of those bands that quickly emerged. With that era. So I think the stuff that was around at the time became more of the influence just by virtue of knowing other people were doing it and probably like coming from the same background as me, and just that felt good just to know it was happening. And wow, a lot of these bands, wow, they're starting to tour. you know
Yeah.
um, 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 so yeah, um, I can say I was a guitar player as a kid.
Yeah.
Shortly after
So
seeing Cliff play, um, I went to bass. you know Circumstance brought me there, though. It wasn't directly.
and this was all time spent, in Memphis, or did you grow up in the East Bay area
I didn't
and
grow
then
up in the
travel
East.
to
No. They kind of merge eventually because my mom moved to the South Bay. Um, I guess that area they call it Silicon Valley, or they have
Okay.
forever. Before it was Silicon Valley, like late '80s. Late '80s, my mom was going to that part of California, and I would eventually the '90s. I would eventually visit her, pretty often and see her on tour with This Hero's Gone. Um, but no, Tennessee would be it. I guess those formative times, yeah. And there was, nothing. There was like, um, you know, that said, things just kind of happened all at the same time. When a lot of East Bay stuff was coming up, there was stuff beginning to happen there. There was,
Mhm.
um, stuff like, it was all so short lived, like a lot of punk is. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like stuff. Yeah, there was like a crust band called Faust. There was like this genre called crust. We all loved bands that were combining metal and punk in the way that I really liked was like Nausea, the New York City band. Um, I really liked a lot of Extreme Noise Terror in England, and most of the stuff I liked was mostly in England, for weirdly enough. And then Scandinavia and Japan.
I was about to
Uh,
ask you, like, did you ever get into that, like, the whole, Swedish, like, their, versions of crust and D beat and,
oh yeah,
um
system
yeah.
and totally, yeah. We all um, about the time. Well, this was after His Hair Is Gone started. Really, that we all seemed to get on go be. We none of us were really aware of that stuff when His Hair Is Gone started, but as we developed, we found similarity. My bandmate Todd, when I first met Todd, he'd never even heard Discharge. He was wearing like a Gorilla Biscuit shirt. He was like a skated skater,
Yeah.
you know? And then we became friends. And yeah, and, I was in a band called Man with Gun Lives Here, doing more kind of like experimental kind of stuff. Well, experimental. I don't know what to call it. Not metal at all. Uh, but I played Discharge for him, and I think I gave him like Hear Nothing, Say Nothing, or I traded him. Can't remember, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I gave it to him, and a couple of years later, we started a band together. So it was, man, back to like those influences. That's kind of all there was in terms of like things that were heavy, like merging metal and punk. And yeah, I mean, I guess Discharge kind of just did it, and Extreme Noise Terror also.
Yeah.
Um, but I liked, more the rawness that ENT kind of carried. And yeah, then that definitely carried over to, His Hair Is Gone. And definitely we picked up, we definitely got clued into other people doing it in Scandinavia. Um, Skid System definitely was one. A lot of the more punk sounding stuff like Totalitaire and um, yeah, um, Wristed to, like, man, it's a lot. Todd really got deep into that,
Yeah.
trying to find like, demos, whatever we could find, that stuff was pretty hard to find at the time too. Like you
Yeah,
had
I'm
to,
sure. And I mean, even in the internet age, I still find it pretty damn hard to locate some like some old classics, like some of the anti Semitic stuff that I'm into, and
yeah,
you know, even old Poison Idea albums are just getting increasingly hard to find.
they were hard to find then. you know, you had to be a serious record collector, I guess, to whether you liked it or not, just to get the music you liked. It was really hard, but I remember then struggling to get that stuff. I thankfully still have most of it. All
Mhm.
those early pressings, and
You talked about how the bass resonated with you, and that's probably one of the things that really stands out to me whenever I listen to His Hero Is Gone for the first time, is just how aggressive your attack is with the bass. And I'm just curious, like, where does that tone come from whenever you were just, was it, you caught lightning in a bottle with the tone, or is something that you wanted to perfect? Because
it just happened. Yeah, yeah, it, yeah. Literally, yeah. Happened out of nowhere. I could go back and talk about these influences, and that just all fell away. Though I really feel like it came out of just the environment. The environment of um, this really like depressing place, and a, yeah, I mean, yeah, a desire to play well too. That's
Mhm.
definitely, if you know, but you know, punk kind of taught me to play more with the feel, um, and yeah, I always worked really hard to be technically good as a kid, and I feel like that. Well, I don't know if that comes. Hopefully, it comes through. you know, uh, yeah, man. I don't know. It just fit the times. It just fit the way I felt. Um, it fit, it fit the music, and that's mostly I just wanted it to fit the music. And my bandmates and I we all supported each other.
Mhm.
I loved how they put so much work into just the instrumentation of harmonizing, and even if it, um, guitar tones, um, with the bass, the sound and the tone is really just what I got. It came, you know, truthfully,
Mhm.
just happened. Um, it also happened. The sound and the tones came from just what was around that I could afford.
Yeah.
I found a PV Mark IV bass head, which, rat pedal. Um, I couldn't afford a good cabinet, but I found a guy that could modify a cabinet that I had with car speakers, 50-inch speakers. So realistically, like if that tone on 15 counts, I mean that's what it is. It's a 215 cabinet with car speakers. I don't remember what kind of cabinet. I think it was an acoustic cabinet, and it's just what I had. I mean, I did look around, and I talked to a guy too who he understood sound,
Mhm.
more than I didn't understand. I'm not a sound engineer.
Yeah.
And he was just one. Most people around then with the punk and hardcore scene, you, you wouldn't really find people like that around that really knew sound engineering. But this guy did, and he just recommended it. And I was like, I think you can do this on your budget. And I was like, okay. Um, and I took, yeah, and I went to it was some warehouse where they install car speakers, and I worked with this guy, and yeah, I went down there and tested it a couple times. I was like, wow. And he really worked with me on it. Like, I really can't remember that much or who the guy was,
Yeah.
or the name of the place, but he really saw that I cared, and he really was seemed into it, that I was trying to achieve something with this rig. And that's what came out, and it's like the way I feel about playing. It's just like it's never heavy enough or aggressive enough, no matter how hard you play. And like I don't know. I guess we're just really going for it. And I don't know, man. I think the place kind of created the sound, though. The
Yeah.
experience of that place. Mm.
Yeah, it just seems like every venue that whoever was lucky enough to capture His Hero Is Gone live, uh, you know, it just seemed so aggressive in tone, and I'd say the best adjective to describe, you guys live is just like it's like very incendiary. It's just fucking like I remember whenever like Sean had played, I think it was Raise the Curtain for the first time, and I was immediately like I was all in with your band. Like I was like, okay, like this is something clearly I was missing my whole entire life. I mean, I've always prided myself like you know, I was always looking for something like heavier or more extreme in nature. And I've always, I've always had this side of me that was, was raised a skateboarder and was always into punk music, really like just metal crossover stuff. And it's something like that was one of those genres I just kind of like I put on a back burner growing up. And then I come across His Hero Is Gone, and I was like, holy shit, like this is and just from there, I was starting this podcast. I was like, man, I really wish I can talk to you guys about how the creative process went. I mean, you hinted at it earlier that everyone had each other's back when it
Mhm.
came to writing music, and and you have big part of that aggressiveness and that tenacity uh in and outside the studio. So it's like I guess my question is for you on that respect is just was that the music coming from that side you talked about, like was it like it was still emotional depressional state that you were going through as as a young adult?
Yeah, yeah, because that state carried on from a kid into a young adult, and I think the socioeconomic reality was also you know, um, um, an element. Um, yeah, basic survival. But all comes into music was just the I don't know, the way through and the way out.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a way of just giving too. It felt um, yeah, very I don't know, it felt good to just to give that. Um, um, yeah, and this scene is really based on a certain amount of um, belief in activism and action, for peace.
Mhm.
So yeah, as you know, most the scene is like very people are very peaceful and cool and you know
Oh, yeah, definitely.
liberal and leftist. Yeah, and I think the environment was like really not that. It was very third worldish. Kind of brutal, conservative. You know, so all those things. Um, that you're just trying to transmute. Through music, like
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
um, yeah. Uh, and the aggression is part of that. Working out all the aggression and all the bad stuff. Maybe I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know.
So what was it like going into a studio for the first time? I mean, you guys played live, so many shows a year, I'm sure. I mean, it just seems like everything when it comes to Is Hero Is Gone is like this like short and very fast timeline, and it was probably the most intense for you all.
Hmm.
So I'm just curious, like what was like life like in the studio for you guys?
Um, very awkward at first. Yeah, very awkward. None of us had recorded before, really. I mean, we
Hmm.
recorded with our friend Billy, who's the bass player and tragedy vocalist, who later became that. We recorded the demo with him. Um, but I think we're talking about the experience of in a real studio, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that was more like relaxed, but a little intimidating at first. But we really like we were really together. We all were a little intimidated by standing in front of mics. The environment was weird. It was really
Hmm.
weird. Like to play with your a bass cabinet in a bathroom in another side of the building at Polymorph when everybody else has at least I could see the guitar cabinets and I could see the drums. But it's weird without feeling that push of the music behind you. It's and having that so like separate in headphones. Like, yeah, sure, everybody. It was very for a second. I think we got through it pretty quickly. Um, we loved it. I mean, once we got past those, we had to kind of help each other a few times. I think with vocals, I mean that was mostly Todd and Pat. There were moments, where it just had to really like encourage
Hmm.
each other.
Yeah.
We need that little encouragement here and there, especially I think with vocals. From what I can remember, um, I mean, it felt really good to be putting this stuff to into a to, into a permanent state. Like it was really exciting. I don't know. We all felt really lucky to be doing it. We didn't have to pay for the recording. The label did. We had like 5 days, I think. I
Oh,
can't
wow.
remember, maybe 7 or 8. So yeah, we had to go through everything. We always did that. We recorded everything pretty fast. We never tracked. Um, It was all played live. Um, I mean, Todd and Pat later Yannick would do second guitar tracks just to thicken it up, like
Yeah.
overdubs.
Yeah.
It was live, played live. I can't remember stopping much. Just pick it up again. We had to go from start to finish each time. I think. I mean, I have to really think hard about that. Recording to tape, was great. Um, you know, um, Witnessing that whole process. I don't know. It was cool. I felt really lucky to be
Yeah.
doing it.
I guess that's
Um,
why those albums sound so great because everything was captured live.
yeah, they were live, and also the place, Polymorph. The board they had. I'm sure like their equipment. I feel like that place really got our sound and really helped shape our sound a little, somewhat. You know, they really
Mhm.
like showcased to us individually, like, oh, this is what we sound like. We're used to playing in basements and houses with you know uh, you know not even using tuners, tuning to your putting your ear to the speaker.
Right,
you
right.
know Especially like tuning lower. That was something that was fairly new to us. Tuning to C, the top E string, to tuning down. We only did
Uh-huh.
that for a select amount of songs, but I feel like that was when I think we really heard what that was doing to the songs. You know, which sounds crazy. I know a lot of other bands were doing it at the time. Well, not too many that I knew of actually. Maybe Godflesh, stuff like that. But it
Mhm.
wasn't something you found in punk. That down tuning thing. So that I feel like really hearing that kind of not floppy. It wasn't like B. It was like C. It was like really feeling and hearing what that did to the songs was like so that was like amazing. You know.
Yeah. It definitely to me, I heard now that you said it, you
Mhm.
definitely hear that Sabbath influence with the tuning to C.
Is that what they tuned to?
I think so. Like some songs, I think definitely volume 4 is definitely C standard.
Awesome.
I want
Awesome.
and but yeah, man.
I completely forgot about another band too along the way to
Oh, go
name
ahead.
at the Gates. That just kind of randomly came through my mind.
Oh yeah.
A band that when we started, we picked up listening. These are bands we found together as a band. Like we all after practice, you know, they were playing a show, and like it's like, oh yeah, we get to practice and then go see this band that we've been listening to, and you know, so that was kind of exciting. They're back to the Scandinavian band.
Yeah, and I mean, and yeah, at the Gates was bringing their brand of Swedish death metal in those early at the Gates albums are just fucking insane.
Yeah.
That's fucking awesome, man. That y'all got into that.
Mm.
It goes to show that just what kind of influences plays a part into his Heroes Gone's music, and just what shapes you as an individual artist. Which I'm really interested. Art is a big part of your life. Um, I saw that you work for some galleries or as a museum in
Yeah,
New
I'm
York.
the I'm the exhibitions installation manager at the
There you go.
New York Public Library.
Yeah, man, that's wild.
Hmm.
And and I mean, you surrounded yourself by art on a daily basis, and I'm just like really curious. What artists had hit you? Not music, like actual like visual art continues to be a huge presence in your life.
Hmm. Um, I'd say, as a kid, I didn't have a lot of, didn't have any training. So, by the time I got into punk, that's when I was, working also on a degree program, getting a BFA. And that was, also why trying to keep, get the band going and, work. I had to work a lot So there wasn't really art around. There wasn't, at that the environment we were in, there weren't any art museums or galleries. There was none. There were none. Rather, sorry. So it was the stuff that I could identify with mostly, that I could relate to the music, which was like, I think that World War III Illustrated. It was like a New York City magazine that brought together a lot of, it was all like leftist artists. That stuff was, I thought, was really cool. I was really drawn to like a painter named Sue Ko. You know,
Mhm.
he did super politically charged work, a lot of work about, relating to, animal rights. Um, when it comes to painting, though, it goes a little beyond the immediate message, because I feel like painting just goes a little deeper because it really exposes kind of who you are, because you have to really like get into it and do it. It's not a quick image making process. I feel I just thought painting, there was something more to it that I really, was interested in. And, I was like, I mean, at the time I was just looking, frankly, at the canonical stuff that you see in art class, which I couldn't relate to at all, uh, but that's part of, challenging yourself in an academic environment is not about relating to it. Of course, it's like you're there to learn, and, I was there to be challenged and grow, but no, I couldn't relate to the stuff I saw. I couldn't relate to, like, you know,
Stuff that you
the
were learning,
canonical, the stuff
yeah, you
stuff
you
that
you
like,
wasn't
yeah,
getting
like,
truly inspired
there's
by,
that.
I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. Um,
No,
I
no,
was just
please
saying,
do. I'm
oh,
blabbing.
oh, oh, I was just saying that, you wasn't getting totally inspired by the stuff that you were getting taught by, any
No, not at
instructor
all.
or professor.
No, no, no. It was only music, and I really just wanted to bring art into music. That was my goal, like whether I stated it or not. And just that was a challenge for me. But also I wanted to respect, the learning process, and know, like, I was still learning. I didn't, I had no formal training, so it was very like kind of a rigid kind of a training. And I later found like social realism, a style, that's associated, you know, you can locate that in history, and it's not so positive, you know. But a lot of the artists trained in those environments, I guess. This is jumping
Mhm.
forward quite a bit, but I guess, like, I mean, not even, yeah, not really, not really thinking about it until now. But a lot of those artists, I really like the skill. They're really kind of the people that grew up strictly representational, but probably for a different reason than someone here does. Like, like that artist Gerhard Richter. The famous German painter, grew up in, the East. I remember, flash forward to the 2000s, late 90s. A lot of artists from communist China were, trained in that social realism, kind of really strict representational idea. But a lot of the stuff they were producing on their own after being, you know, in the different environment, were amazing. Just the sheer skill of it was cool to me. Just sheer
Yeah,
representational skill, just for the sake of it. And I just really respected that. And painting, just like, just painting does what photography or digital images can't. But I think at the time of, as a student, yeah, I mean, back to like, just like with music, it just felt like there was nothing else around. It came kind of out of nowhere. I know it didn't, but that's just how it felt. Like, the painting behind me on my wall there, the 15 counts painting,
it counts.
I was just learning the discipline of watercolor painting, and, um, tying in, my the experience of, you know learning about, um, you know oppression that other people experience based on, I don't want to be too specific. I had learned about environmental racism and stuff happening on the other side of the world that I felt,
Yeah.
um, wow. I mean, I think we're connected to that. You know, I have a pretty marginal background too. But yeah, just trying to connect and just trying to understand and feel it. And
Yeah.
feel channel action into peace. That's really what music and art do to me or should do. Ultimately, there wasn't an art scene like a music scene. It was just it was a loner kind of thing to do. But I like to bring
Yeah.
it to my bandmates and show them everything I did, and that was the coolest part of it. Is like really trying to bring what I was doing in art to my bandmates and just, hey, check this out. Like with the painting, I thought it was so cool that we used it because we talked about it. Like I'd done it before we went on tour and stuff. And like, the music that we like, full color paintings was that's something you really saw in punk art,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Black Flag album or Discharge or anything. I just thought, oh, that's the idea was cool, and we all talked about it and discussed it, and we all worked together on talking about it and what it meant and what what it could mean to other people, regardless of what I was thinking of when I painted it. We spent a long time talking about that, like before we even recorded the album, and then the other big. I like the collaborative part of it with art and music, especially with my bandmates, and um, we all work together on how to arrange it, for a record, and that was awesome. Paul and I, we used the facilities at the school to make a banner, so just like using that resource to like for the band. I thought it was like, yeah, we made homemade silk screens. All our shirts were silk screen. I hand made them, and I would actually make like multicolored versions of them.
Mhm.
So burning different screens and all that handcrafted process was so cool. And I would show the sketches to my bandmates. And I mean, I found them in sketchbooks just like a couple months ago. It's like sketches with like trying to figure out what colors to use and things like that. And so yeah, like Skin Feast, um, Haloperidol, the thing that came out in the fold out poster. We decided to use that. I made that specifically for a shirt design, and that you know I changed it a bit for that. And like Todd and I cut up the sketches. I mean, we had a lot of fun in Kinkos, man. Uh,
I bet.
Todd and I mostly. Those were great times. It was the best, honestly. After practice,
Yeah.
like have a good work together, and it's good to keep it, play
I tell you,
around.
like, I mean, the music of His Heroes Gone and the artwork and just the DIY, process of it all, it's freaking inspiring, man. We living in this, this AI world
Oh,
where,
yeah.
artists are getting ripped off left and right.
Mm,
Um, and anyone with a good enough prompt, could steal some, artist's style. And you know, I really appreciate everything that you and your bandmates have put out, as far, as like the art, the music of it all. It just goes to show you like what, the human spirit is capable of doing as far as like the lyrical intention as well as the instrumentation behind it. So again, appreciate that.
thank you.
And I'm really curious. I mean, because like I've been looking for his heroes gone shirts, like different variances of it, like old stuff that I might have missed out on. So I was really really stoked to see that you were putting the shirts of 15 counts back on online. So thanks for that.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. That was a collaborative effort too. It was kind of cool over the past year, just getting in touch with everyone and talking through it. You know, uh,
Mhm.
I found a good person. It's actually the first bass player from Born Against. Actually, he lives in Philly. It was recommended to me, and um, yeah, it was pretty. It was really exciting. You know, finding a person that we like to work with and doing it collaboratively, and happy to take it on and make a offer an alternative to all the bootlegs, man. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're stoked on it too. And so thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Oh, absolutely. I think I was looking for, and you may even still have it on your website. I was interested in buying one of the prints so I can actually, have something framed on my wall as well. Because, like I said, I'm a huge fan of you as an artist. I like how your thoughts come onto canvas or
Thanks,
or
man.
whatever medium you're using.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Those prints aren't available anymore. I think those editions are. Actually, no. There's one. I have it at my studio though. I don't know if it's in decent shape. Sorry about that.
Well, no problem. You got to. I'm saying that because you have a market for it.
I don't know if I don't know if I plan on making another edition. Maybe. Um, I'll let you know.
No
But
problem,
thank
man.
you.
So, um, are your kids old enough to know that that dad was in one of the most influential, you know, bands of our generation?
I think my daughter might get that. I I don't. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't self promote.
Hmm.
I don't see us as that. I don't see. People tell me that, but I still remember playing to like 20 people, like at the end. I think things have changed, and the audience somehow grew after we broke up, which is very weird. You know, um, even though the world has changed a lot and the way of doing things has changed. I think it kind of comes through to her. I think somehow she gets that. Like she somehow has seen stuff on the internet, and other parents weirdly tell her that.
Oh,
Not in a
wow.
weird way, but just I don't. I do talk about music a lot, and I think the fact that I'm a music, I think it all is coming through in some way. And somehow the past few months or so, she's given me some sign that she's really proud of it. I don't know. I couldn't explain how.
Mhm.
Like she really, and now I feel like at some point they might actually want it to be that, something they, something to be proud of. To put it weirdly, I'm
Yeah,
really
man.
proud of the music we made, but I'm not. I can't say I feel like I'm an influence, or I feel my bandmates do the same thing. We made the music for ourselves. Whatever comes of it,
Yeah.
whatever happens, happens, and that's how we still feel about it. Um, but um, yeah, I think we'll have to check back in when they're a little older to be able to process all that and understand it.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
I really, hope they get something from it. And yeah, as a dad, I want them to, frankly, I do want them to be proud of it more than I am,
Mhm.
in a different way. Yeah. It's,
I'm sure, in time, as they get older, like you said, they're gonna like, man, like, he was like that was a part of that, and like this is
yeah,
fucking awesome.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope they think it's awesome. Strangely, my mom is calling me. I'm from California on my cell phone right now. I'm not going to answer it, but kind of.
Well, I don't want to hold your mom up
Oh no, no,
too
don't.
much.
No, I just made mention of it. Kind of
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
kind of cool. Uh, um,
So
man,
does playing music still is a part of your life these days, or not so much?
I don't have a band going at the time. At the moment, um, I had a band called Syndromes going for a
Hmm.
while. That was great. New York City based. The pandemic just shut that down, man, and we all just kind of our guitar player Zach moved to Massachusetts, and yeah, if we couldn't, for there was like a year where we couldn't be in the same room together, you know. Um, so that just that really shut us down. We tried carrying on as a three piece without Zach, and he's just like and yeah, it just kind of faded out. For unfortunately, I still love the music, and I even I play it daily. I play.
Oh,
We
wow,
had
okay.
we were going to put an album out on Alerta Antifascista. Apologies that my pronunciation isn't. It's an Italian label. We had a 45 RPM LP in the works that we were ready to record. You know, we had a 4-track EP on cassette on Halo of Flies, um, Bandcamp, and all that stuff. I was really into it. We all were. It was navigating kind of weirdly what his hero, maybe not weirdly, what his hero's god was doing with different people. You know, and that I think that's the first band that I played in that was really kind of similar. I played in a lot of bands since, and it was like all very very different. With, you know, but I think I played the same way that I do. You know, with different people. I don't know. In California, I played with a lot of bands. We didn't record a lot. Um, but yeah, Syndromes would be the last one. I don't know if we'll pick that back up again. I mean, we're still two guys, Joe and Frank. They're still here. I'd I'd love to. I mean, to me, music is my social life. With as a parent,
Yeah,
if you can relate to that,
definitely
like
can
that.
relate to that.
Yeah, cool. I miss having that. You know, and I miss playing. You know, um, yeah. I mean, I have my basis right there. It's keep it in tune. I keep it in tune. I play those songs like almost daily, honestly, just
Oh, wow.
to keep playing. Weirdly, sometimes I don't even plug it in. It just feels good to play.
Yeah.
Um, um, yeah. So yeah,
Carl,
just
what I have to ask you, man, because, since it's such a, important question to me, just knowing what are some of your I know you can't just pick one, but what are some of your favorite riffs that just stand out in during your time with His Hero Is Gone, that you just kinda lost your shit, fucking, like, just, like,
uh,
so excited to the point where, like, I love playing this riff.
hmm, professional mindfuckers
Yeah.
and Concrete Cage.
Fucking A.
Those two I still play a lot. Um, Even over the years, I guess with other bands warming up to play a show, I'd probably play those two. Or Leash Unleash.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, those three definitely.
Hell yeah, man. Well, man, look, I know you got a couple, calls from your mother, and I don't wanna take up too much of your time. This has been an absolute pleasure, sitting here talking with you.
Sure, man.
Uh, I hold His Heroes Gone. I hold you and the Burdett brothers, like, in high regard as far as, um, some of my biggest musical influences as of late, and thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
Yeah, and please be sure to let me know, if you ever decide to put some of those prints back out. You got a customer right here.
Will do, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Carl, thanks so much, man. It's great talking to you, and, yeah, I'll be in touch.
All right, man. Thank you.